Skyler, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to tackle some, subjects that I feel like everybody should know and should learn about because yeah, like the brain has a lot of power over us, and if you can learn how to control it in a sense, then you're ahead of the game, in my opinion.
Amen.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's fun. It's crazy. Sammy and I were talking before you got on here. Just how intentional all of our guests, the intentionality to people's lives that all of our guests always talk about. And I was just kind of smiling when he was talking about that. And then the three of us were talking off air before we started here about how obviously intentional you are with your current athletic journey, life journey. So maybe you want to start there about how come you are so outspoken and intentional with what you're up to now, and maybe why it hasn't maybe always been that way.
Yeah, I think that I just have been through a lot of hard times, I think, in the sport, and I know that everybody has. And I'm very fortunate. I come from a great family. Like, I feel like from the outside looking in, like my life looks perfect, right? It's kind of like she has everything given to her. I went to Blair Academy, like a very expensive high school. My parents helped me through everything. They're the best people in the world. I have a great support system. And so from the outside looking in, I think it looks like my life is perfect, but I think that we all go through things no matter what. And I truly believe like life is hard for everybody. It might be difficult in a different way or a different sense, but it truly is hard for everyone. And, in wrestling's a hard sport. It's hard physically and it's hard on the mind as well. And life is hard on the mind too. And, I just had to battle both of those things in life and wrestling. And I felt like nobody really talked about their struggles openly. And so I felt very alone in a lot of areas in my life and felt like I was the only one struggling. So then, kind of when I got a bigger platform and stuff, I just said to myself, like, you know what? I feel like my purpose is like to share my story. And, I want other little girls and, boys too to see that like it's not easy. And I guess growing up too, I just looked at my heroes as if they were perfect, and it was just like they're winning all the time, they're doing this, how do they not struggle? And I think it just would have helped me to know that like they do too. And they're humans and we're all humans and we all struggle. And I think that would have really helped me to continue and to just be encouraged more. And so I think that just me being open about these things, if it just helps one person, then that's enough for me.
Hmm. Um, Skylar, I've known you for a little bit. Just we've been on teams together, been on the same senior level circuit for a while. Was there like a point for you when, or someone that spoke into your life to kind of help you with these things that you're talking about, like your mindset and being intentional, or was it just your journey of like, oh my gosh, I've had no one help me, like I'm just going to stand up and start talking about it, or was there someone that came alongside of you to help you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had great support, and I've always had my parents, and they've always supported me and understood me. And so yeah, I can't say that this was all me. I've had a lot of people in my life help. I remember just being so mentally um I guess I don't want to say mentally weak, but struggling with my mental aspect of wrestling so much in college. And I just remember my mom being like, maybe you should like talk to a sports psych person and
Hmm.
have them help you. And I was so against it because I was just against mental health at the time, or like focusing on mental health. I was like, I don't need that. Like, I had the mindset
Mm.
of just being tough. And um,
Yeah.
so my mom like really pushed me to do that. And then it opened up my mind to a whole, new world, honestly, a whole new world and a whole new way to approach life. But, even then I wasn't even fully grasped. I think that probably when I made 65 kilos like 2 years ago, and it was a weight that was just not right for my body. And I lost my ability to feel full completely for a year. And I think that was just like such a low point in my life because I didn't know what was wrong with me. Like, doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. I mean, my dad's a doctor and he was like, I don't know what's going on here. And so I dug into research and I just educated myself on, the mind, the body, the brain, and I learned a lot. And I think that that's when I really started to, yeah, just really understand mental health. And I guess it came from a place where I had to struggle really hard with it in order to know about it. And I think that that's the problem. I think that a lot of times in life, like, we don't know things because we haven't gone through it and we judge other people, but it's like, how can you judge somebody else when you haven't gone through it yourself? And I think it's totally changed my just the way I treat others too. It's like I
Hmm.
sometimes I just have to check myself and just be like, I have no idea what it's like to be them. Like, I have no idea what it's like to be you, Sammy, and you have no idea what it's like to be me. And so I think that I just kind of, yeah, just formed, I don't even know, just more of a heart, I guess, for others because of my own struggles.
Hmm. Wow, that's cool. Um, when you were talking earlier about how easy it is to like look at your life and be like, oh, Skylar's life is perfect, because most of us are seeing it through social media, Instagram, and like the highlight reels are watching you live wrestle, and we just form these ideas of what it's like. So for you, you said once you started going through more of your own struggles, that gave you more of a heart for people. What are you doing now to like to speak into people's lives? I know you share pretty openly on Instagram and you have your own podcast, but are there people on your team that you speak into their lives, or you kind of help hold you accountable and you help do the same for them?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like to share everything I've learned with other people. And, I have people come to me for advice all the time. And I try to give them the best advice that I possibly can based off of like what I've learned in life and stuff. But sometimes you have to go through it in order to learn. Honestly, like, I've made the same
Yeah.
mistakes many, many times, and I finally learned my lesson after multiple times like making the same mistakes. And I think we all kind of go through that. You kind of have to like learn for yourself. But I also believe in helping people along the way, like along my journey. Like, I had a lot of individuals help me, and I don't think that I'd be where I am today if I didn't have that support and I didn't have that help. So as much as you need to go through it yourself and it definitely makes you stronger, like, you definitely need love and support along the way too. But yeah, I mean, I've had lots of conversations with people, just them telling me what they've learned, me telling them what I've learned. And I think it's super beneficial to share experiences because I think that we're all humans. And I think that as much as we are different, we are the same. We have a lot of the same feelings and emotions and fears. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're all humans. So we're all similar on some kind of level.
Hmm. Yeah.
I want to circle back to the and not all of our listeners are wrestling people, so
Yeah.
um, I'll try not to beat the wrestling drum too much, but I often think about like the kids that I'm coaching now, and whether they had parents that wrestled or parents didn't wrestle, there's still such a heavy focus on how little can I weigh, even at such a young age.
Hmm.
And I am beating the drum. I'm always like, I don't care what you weigh. Just show up Saturday and wrestle. Who cares, you know? But I want to talk a little bit about what have you learned in your research and in your own and from your own life. Like, how has changing your perspective, if that's the right word, on what weight you compete at, um, change some of your habits and how you viewed yourself and how you viewed success or how you viewed failure?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Well, first off, my dad's like 260 pounds. My mom's like 148. And for some reason, I thought that I should be under 150. Like, that was like the
Hmm.
magic number I had in my head, that like, if I'm under 150, then I'm going to be happy. And I guess that's kind of what I did for myself. I picked a number and said that that was the right weight for me and I'll be happy at that weight with my body and my wrestling. And that was the farthest thing from the truth. Like, I don't think that we decide. No, I actually know that we don't decide our weight. It's kind of, there's so many different factors that affect your weight, your personality, biology, genetics. Like, there are way more things than diet and exercise that affect your weight. And I didn't know that because I was just part of, the wrestling community and toxic diet culture that teaches you otherwise. And I think that there's a lot of things about weight that we don't know still, and we're
Hmm.
still learning. But for me, it was just like, yeah, I had this number in my head or this weight in my head that I thought I had to be successful. And I wish I could say that it was me that decided, I can't do this anymore. I need to go up a weight. But it really was my body. Like, my body was like, no, we are done. Like, I'm going to force you to gain weight. And that's exactly what it did. And I didn't really have control over it. It was just, it wanted to get bigger. And that was very scary for me because in my mindset, it was weight gain is bad and weight loss is good. So any number increasing on the scale, from my mind, I was like, this is bad. Like, I'm unhealthy, or I'm getting unhealthy, or people are going to judge me because I'm bigger. And I had all of those thoughts kind of surrounding, my body image. And I think it was also hard because I'm a woman and society, me growing up, it was not cool to be over 150 pounds. And I weigh like 174 right now, which I think we think is a lot for a woman, but it's like I'm 174 at like 23% body fat, maybe less. So I'm at a healthy weight. But I think that I couldn't emotionally grasp that. And I think that we do have a lot of biases towards weight as a society and a wrestling culture. And I think that we just need to preach to people that you need to go the weight where you're happiest and where you're not thinking about food 24/7 and you're not thinking about your body 24/7. And I think that's a really important thing to preach because, especially to people that are like perfectionists, and I'm definitely one of them. I want to be perfect in every avenue of my life. And I think that a lot of wrestlers are. And so I think it's kind of dangerous to, give them a number or, give them calories. It just sometimes it becomes obsessive. And I'm not saying it becomes obsessive for everyone because it doesn't. But I think we do need to be aware of the risks and aware that, we do have a lot of little girls coming up in this sport. And
Hmm.
there's a lot more pressure on women to look a certain way and than there are for boys. And I'm not saying that boys and men don't go through it because I know you guys do. I know you guys have eating problems and body image as well, but society pushes it way more for women. So I just hope that we can start preaching not cutting weight and being at the weight that you're genetically supposed to be at, and where you're eating healthy and you're working out. And I think that that's kind of how I preach it to other people. It's like, okay, well, what weight are you at when you're eating healthy and you're working out and you're not being obsessive with either or, and it doesn't become like a job for you.
Yeah.
You should not have to count every single calorie that goes into your mouth for months and months on end. So trying to find that balance has been very hard for me. And I don't know the perfect formula. I think the perfect formula is different for everybody. Like I said, I enjoy running. So, like, me going out for a run, 2 times a week for 3 miles, like, that's mentally and physically great for me. But for somebody else, they could be like, I hate running. Like, I'd be miserable if I had to run 3 miles twice a week. So, my formula is going to look different than yours. And I think
Mhm.
that's important as well.
That's why I think every kid should wrestle because there's so many things. Didn't I say I wasn't going to bang the wrestling drum? But there's so much life in wrestling.
Yeah.
Like all the things you said. It's just like that's real life. So you can take the number on the scale and say a financial goal. Like it's all the same thing. Like
Yeah.
we as people think if I weigh a certain weight or I make it this amount of money, my
Yep.
life will now be
Perfect.
happy or
Yeah.
content or whatever. And it's just not.
It's just not true. Yeah, and I think that that's one of the lessons I had to learn is because I always like had a goal in my head, and it's good to have goals, but it's not okay to have a goal and be like, "Oh, once I reach that, I'll be happy." Like I talk about in my other interviews, I was when I was younger, I would always say, "When I win the US Open, like that's going to be it. Like I'm going to know I'm a good wrestler. I'm going to like be happy." And I won the US Open and it was just like, "That's it?" Like that's
Mhm.
all. Like I was happy, of course, but it's like that doesn't bring happiness. Nothing outside of yourself can bring you happiness. Like you have to be happy for who you are as a person, and it can't be anything, yeah, outside of yourself. It can't be material things. It can't be, yeah, you got to be okay in the moment, and you got to be okay with who you are, and that's a hard lesson to learn, and one that I recently had to learn. But once you figure that out, your life gets a whole lot better. It really does.
How do you be content in the moment, Skylar? Like, what are the things that led you to being confident in who you are and being like happy? It sounds like what you're saying is be happy now. Once you're content and satisfied with what you have now, as you make steps to those goals, it's going to be more fulfilling. It's not like once I get there, I can experience that now. Are there things that you've done, or is there a way that you talk to yourself to be content in this moment?
Yeah, I think that part of that is like building my confidence. And you know what? I think that being like, I really had to sit down with myself and be like, okay, well, who do I want to be? Like, who do I want? If I have people looking up to me, like who do I need to be for them? And
Mm.
I kind of think back to like when I was a younger kid, and who would I want like younger Sky to look up to? And am I being that person day in and day out? And I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm not here saying I'm this perfect role model because I'm not. I'm not a perfect role model. I have made mistakes, but I think that as long as you continue to learn and you have a desire to want to be a better person day in and day out, like that's good enough for me, and that will always be good enough for me. If I can be a better person than I was yesterday, then I'm getting somewhere, and I truly believe that that's kind of how I walk myself through every day now, and that's how I'm happy. I make sure that the things that I'm doing are positive for the most part, and I try to stay away from negativity. And I think I used to be a person that was negative all the time. I never really got to see the light in certain situations. I would just, yeah, be very negative. But I think a big thing that I've overcome in that regard is, I've had my coaches. Like Nate is a very positive coach. I had him to kind of help me see the light in every situation. And then my dad is like the most positive person ever. Like in every horrible situation, he's always like, just have some faith, Skylar. And I didn't for a long time. I was just kind of negative, and then when I started to just have faith that things would work out, and they always do, I just became a happier person. But I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Every, literally every person we've talked to has spoken into the importance of the people that they surround themselves with. And just to
Oh,
your
yeah.
point, like your coaches being like, let's find the light, and your dad, that encourages you and kind of keeps you accountable to
Yep.
tracking towards your goals. Um, you were talking earlier about just like framing our culture and how like um, body weight for women and especially wrestling is it's such a part of our culture and it's not necessarily a healthy thing. How do you've intentionally made this move? How do you talk to yourself to like kind of shut those negative thoughts out, or even people that are coming after you being negative or maybe attacking, and like how do you stay true to yourself? Because that's, we all have the distractions that pop up. It might, like Andrew gave different examples. Um, how do you stay focused? How do you not let that get to you? Or when it does get to you, how do you kind of recenter yourself and remind yourself of who you are? You've talked about like, who you are, and that gives you that confidence. When it starts to be a distraction, how do you pull back to being who you are?
Yeah, I think going back to like environment, I think that that's a really important part of how I've, kind of, just changed in the sense of having more confidence and stuff. I remember seeing a tweet, and I think it was like from Penn State wrestling. I'm not sure. It was about 6 or 7 years ago, and they were like, "You are your environment." And I remember just being like, "That is so not true. Like, I'm not my environment. Like, I can separate myself from my environment." And now at 25, I'm like, "Holy crap, that is so true." Whether you want it to be true or not, like your
Mhm.
brain gets programs. Like your brain is like a computer, and you can you cannot escape your environment, because like subconsciously your brain is programmed to that. And so I think that my environment, whether we have control over our environment or not, is kind of subjective, I think. But just like the things I was following on social media and stuff, like it was all programming my mind and my brain
Mm.
to think a certain way and be a certain way. And when I realized that was no longer helpful to me and it was actually causing a lot of harm to me, I was like, I need to change this. Like, I need to follow different accounts. I need to follow people, that have different perspectives and different thoughts and different ideas. And I just kind of changed my environment. I, started following people that, talked about the importance of mental health and talked about the importance of loving your body no matter what it looks like and appreciating what it does for you instead. And it changed everything. It changed my mind, and it changed how I viewed myself. And, I no longer was comparing my athletic wrestler body to 115-pound Instagram models. And yeah, that's really helped me. And I also, started surrounding myself with people that were supportive of me and people that encouraged me to be big and strong. And, and I still get a lot of hate. I just made an Instagram post about it, and you know, I had people say like, "Oh, you look great. Don't worry." But that wasn't the point of the post. I don't need that anymore, and I'm very happy that I don't need that anymore because I used to. I used to need people to be like, "Oh, you look great. Don't worry about that." Blah blah blah. But I don't need that anymore. But I know that there's someone out there that needs to see my post and be like, you know what, she's right. Like the opinions of others don't matter because that comment that was made about me doesn't affect 25-year-old Skyler, but it for sure would have affected, 17-year-old Skyler. And it would have changed how I like viewed the world. And it's so crazy because one comment can change how someone views themselves for the rest of their lives. And I definitely had some negative things said to me back when I was in high school. And it changed who I am as a person. I remember one coach telling me that I wasn't athletic. And so then every time someone would do like a clinic or something and they would teach like a fancy move, I would say, "Oh, I can't do that because I'm not athletic." And I wasn't even consciously aware of it. It was kind of subconscious. And I realize now like where it stemmed from, but it's like, what? Like this one comment changed how like I approached my sport for years on end, and I just like it killed my confidence for so long. And so comments can really change how we view the world. But I mean, I've definitely become a stronger person because of it. But I do think that awareness is so important. Like self love is so important. Being aware of your thoughts and your behaviors is so important. And I wish I knew it earlier, but I'm happy that I know it now.
Yeah, I sent your I thought it was an Instagram story this morning to a girl I work with. She's a volleyball player, and she's struggled a lot with the idea of she's committed to a D1 school, and that her coach there is just like, I need you to get bigger, faster, stronger. And it's funny because that's what I've told her for years, and she's always like, "Shut up, jackass! I'm tired of hearing that." Because she sees everything on Instagram. It's like
Mm.
18-year-old girls aren't bigger, faster, stronger. So I had sent her that screenshot and stuff, and then she sent me a text right before we got on, and she's like, I love this chick. Like, this is who I need to be following. But it's funny because what you just said is like, yeah, she's following the wrong people.
Hmm.
She's seeing the wrong things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it hasn't debilitated her growth, but it really has stunted it because she's torn between, I know I need to get bigger, faster, stronger, but all my peers and my best friends aren't volleyball players and they're not getting bigger or faster.
Yeah, no, it is crazy how your environment, encourages, you know, certain thoughts and behaviors. And it's crazy that we're not even consciously aware of it most of the time. Like, it's very, very subconscious. And, sometimes we have to break free from it. And it's hard to do. It's not easy because we grow up around it. It becomes like how we operate almost. And so reprogramming the way you view the world is really hard. Like when I was going through my eating struggles and my body image issues, and some people, everybody has a lot to say, right? Some people are just like, oh well, it's mental. And I'm like, yeah, it is mental, but like, why is it mental? Like, why has it gotten to this point? And I love this analogy. It's like, people are like, oh well, just stop doing that, stop doing those behaviors or whatever. And for me, I couldn't like stop like calculating calories and calculating how
Yeah.
much I was burning in practice and how much I could eat. And I was like, why am I like this? But now I know that it's just because I programmed my brain to be like that. It's like telling you, like, forget how to drive. Like, just forget it. Forget how to drive. You can't. Like, it's not the only
Yeah.
way for you to forget how to drive is probably if you stop driving. So it's so crazy that people will just look at it from the outside and have something to say and be like, oh well, just don't be that way. Like, yeah, don't be that way because you're that way. You're not in my brain and you're not in my
Hmm.
body, and you haven't done what I've done and you haven't experienced what I've experienced. And so from the outside looking in, it's very easy to make comments about other people, but not no one's gonna understand you. And it's like,
Hmm.
be very specific in your struggles. And sure, there's people with similarities, but at the end of the day, it's your journey to figure out.
That's a great line. It's your journey to figure out.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's hard. I mean, it's hard for everybody because we kind of do go through the motions of life. And I think that honestly, like, awareness needs to be like taught. Like, it's crazy that it's not, to me. Like, it's crazy that we're not taught how to like understand ourselves. But I guess it can't be taught because in a sense it is only you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're in it. It's, Sammy and I talk about this all the time, but the focus we have on everybody else and
Hmm.
what they think or what we think they're saying or what they are saying, it it controls so much of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's paralyzing.
Yeah,
When
it is.
I'm acting just based on how I think others will perceive me, what they'll think about me, it's not healthy. But
No,
it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to do that. And even crafting like what we put out onto social media and what people see, like trying to control that takes so much energy. Um, but if we put that focus onto, okay, this is who I am. I'm going to take that time, like you were talking about, Skylar, of, okay, who do I really want to be? Thinking about your younger self. That takes time. That takes effort. It's easier to, all right, well, what are my followers going to like right now?
yeah. Yeah, no, it's a very hard thing to deal with. But yeah, I think that you figure a little bit more about yourself as you go through life. But I do worry because I do worry that social media and kind of our environment is changing so rapidly that it is affecting us really badly in a sense. I think that life needs to be simplified a little bit more, in my personal opinion. And I think that we should start preaching to enjoy simple things. I always made fun of my dad because we would go out on our boat or wherever, and he would see a bird or something, and he'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Skylar, look at that bird! Look how beautiful it is!" And I'd be like, "Dad, like, stop! Like, this." But now that I'm getting older, I just like have a appreciation for the little things and the things that I thought mattered, like social media and just like looking good, and that stuff doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter. And I put so much focus in that kind of stuff that I wasn't able to appreciate the little things. And there was even a point where I didn't appreciate my parents as much as I should. And I've just kind of changed my life in that regard. Like, I used to tell my dad I didn't want to go fishing with him, or I didn't want to go for a kayak ride because I'd rather sit on the couch and scroll through my phone. And I know I'm not the only one guilty of that, but I'm just like, when I'm 45 or 50 and I don't have my parents anymore, I'm going to look back and be like, I wish I went for that kayak ride with my dad, or I wish I went fishing with him. And that took time to learn, and I'm happy that I learned it for now, because I'm a lot happier, and I'm going to be able to look back one day and be like, I'm glad I did those things. But yeah, it does take time, and it does take a lot of growing up and learning. But yeah, I do think preaching a simpler life is very important. And I think that we're going to see a lot of issues with the social media with our youth. It's definitely affected me. And I feel like I kind of was towards the tail end of, when social media really like boomed. And so I do worry about, the younger generations. But I also think that we have a platform now to post real life too, and I try to make that a priority on my page, that everything's not rainbows and butterflies. I make a point to post whether I win or lose most tournaments. Even if I lose, I do post about it, um because I think that that's important. Like, I think that it's important to talk about my struggles, and just as much as it is to talk about my accomplishments, and for people to know that I do go through hardships, and I'm not perfect, and I have bad tournaments, and I have struggles too. And so I think that we can also use social media to our advantage as well.
Hmm. That's that perspective change, being
Yeah.
able to see the good, being able to see the light,
Yep.
and each.
There's good and bad in everything. There really is good and bad in everything, and some things that are good for some people might be bad for others. It's just kind of like a way of life, and it's tough. Like I said, life is hard for everybody.
How did you this is probably an odd question, but I'm curious if you're able to articulate, and not to put you on the spot, but I think what you're saying is you found a way to, I think you used the word growing up, but it sounds like you figured out who you really were,
Hmm.
and that allowed you to find different perspectives. You used your parents as an example. Was there something that happened, or a series of things that you did? Because I think what we've heard from a lot of our guests is similar. Like they're able to be comfortable. What's the word I'm looking for here, Sammy? They understand their own identity first, and then the happiness or the perspective comes. But they've all went about it a different way. Are you able to talk about what that looked like, or how that was, or
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are like know about spiritual things, and I was never a spiritual person really that much, but I kind of like had an awakening, and like just kind of had like the universe telling me I was being someone that I wasn't. And it was like a weird experience, and I don't really know how to put it into words. It's like it's bizarre. It's honestly, it sounds crazy. I know I sound crazy, but I literally just got this feeling of like the universe being like, you're not who you're supposed to be. And I was like very confused because I didn't know who I was. And I feel like I like lost my identity, and I like kind of went through like an ego death in a sense. And
Mm.
I realized that everything I was doing was for my ego and to, I cared what other people thought, but that was only because I had an ego. And kind of going through, the lowest point, because I did go through a very, very, very dark time for like a year. Um, Going through that kind of led to my happiness. So it was just like a very dark time for me, realizing I was being someone that I wasn't. My actions were not lining up with who I feel like I was meant to be. And yeah, I just started having like this awareness of what I was doing, and I just started to kind of evaluate, like, why am I posting this? Why am I friends with this person? Why am I letting this person
Mm.
treat me this way? Why am I doing these things? And it's just great now because the way I approach things, I'm able to evaluate things before I do it, and I'm able to weed out people in my life that don't deserve to be in my life. And I hate saying that, but it's so true. Like, some people just don't deserve to be in your life.
Yeah.
And I was letting a lot of people in my life that didn't deserve to be. And I feel like once I came into who I was as a person, I was able to surround myself by like minded people and surround myself with good people. And I realized that if I surround myself with good people, then I will be a good person. So, going back to like environment, like you are your environment, like I can no longer surround myself with negative, bad people, because then it rubs off on me and that's who I become. And I don't want to become that. I don't want to be by negativity. I don't want to be unhappy. I want to be happy. And the way I've realized to do that is just surround myself with those types of people. So,
That is awesome.
kind of crazy though, because, I've always believed in God, but I never really believed in God and stuff. But
Mhm.
I had my awakening. I was just like, what the heck is this?
Could you tell us about that, Skylar? Like, what happened? If you're comfortable, like, was it a campfire? Was it a worship service? Was it like a dream? What happened that makes you sound crazy that gave you that switch though?
It was just like the dark time. Like, I just feel like
Yeah.
having all my weight issues, feeling like no one understood what I was going through, just like I felt so alone. And
Hmm.
yeah, I didn't know my next step. And I just remember like sitting on my couch, and it's so hard. I can't even explain it. I really just, it's hard to even put it into words, but all I can explain it as is just like someone telling me, like, you are not who you're supposed to be. Like, you need
Hmm.
to change because you cannot go on living your life like this. And I was literally in my apartment just chilling when this happened. And I actually like looked it up because I was like, what the heck? Like, at a low point, like, feel like the
Yeah.
universe is telling me I'm not who I'm supposed to be. And then I like realized, holy crap, like I just had an awakening. And my
Hmm.
brother's like a theology, he just got his PhD in theology. And I was talking to him about it, and he was like, oh crap, you had an awakening. And I was like, what the heck is that? And so I started like researching that. And yeah, it's crazy, and it's something that I didn't believe in until I went through it. But um when you go through life and you go through hardships and everything ends up like working out in the end, like I feel like that's the only thing I really have confidence in 100%. Like, I know that I go through my life and I know that bad things will, inevitably happen, but it always works out in the end. And you can't tell me that there's not some, higher self or something that allows that to happen. I don't believe that.
Hmm.
Because
That's
everything
awesome.
back on all my hardships going through it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it through this, like, blah, blah, blah. But then once I got to the other side, I was like, oh, there's a reason I went through that. Like, there's
Yeah.
a reason I suffered with body image issues and I went through all that cutting weight and stuff. And, maybe it's to help one little girl out there so she doesn't have to go through it. But now I can see that like negativity and that hardship gets turned into positive energy. And I'm able to channel that into positive energy for others. And I truly believe that like what you put into the universe, like you will get back, because when we're putting positive energy into the universe, whether it comes back to you directly or not, it's getting pushed onto another person, and then they're pushing it onto somebody else, and it's just a circle, and that positive energy will inevitably come back to you.
Has that paradigm shift made the struggles that happened since you had that awakening, like, has it made it easier for you to like receive it, experience that, and move forward?
Yes, and yes, 100%. Like there will be hard times in my life that I still go through. I mean, it's not like my life's perfect now, no hardships for Skylar, but you recognize it right away, and I'm able to be like, okay, how do I want to handle this? Like
Mm.
if someone is if someone's showing me, I like to use people a lot because I think that I've learned how to surround myself with great people. But if someone's treating me poorly, this is something that I didn't used to be able to do, but someone's treating me poorly and I've given them a second chance and they still choose to treat me poorly, I'm very able to now, kind of let go of that person. Whereas before I would cling to them and I would hope that they treat me nicer. But now I'm able to get rid of things not meant for me right away and not cling and hold on to them in hopes that it'll change. And I think that that's made me a much happier person because I'm able to just accept things for how they are. And that's something that I've worked with my sports psych on a lot. Like, just accepting things, because I'm the type of person that I want to change other people. I want you to see
Yeah.
my point. I want you to treat me a certain way and love me. And he was just like, Skylar, what if you don't have control over that? Like, you can't control how somebody else perceives you or how somebody treats you or if they want to be friends with you or not. And he's like, and you can't control, if you have a bad tournament or whatever. And I just came to the realization that like, holy crap, he's right. Like, I honestly believe that like 99.9% of the universe is kind of uncontrollable, and we only have
Mm.
control over, I think like that 0.1%. And I love people that like argue with me. They're like, oh, well, you can control like your thoughts and your actions and your behaviors, and I disagree with that. I think we have a very slim amount that we control, because even thoughts, a lot of my thoughts are not my own. They're cultivated by
Yeah.
society, they're cultivated by other people, and they're not my own thoughts. I am a product of my environment for the most part. So, being able to recognize that my thoughts are not entirely my own has also helped me in my life, and been able to, if I think a certain way about me, I'm like, wait, is this my thought or is this somebody else's thought that has now become my thought? And so I've just learned a
Hmm.
lot about that kind of stuff. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's a lot, but it definitely has helped me and it's definitely healed me. And I've been able to heal myself. And I hope that I'm able to help other people heal, because we all have things to heal from.
absolutely. I'm curious, as we round this out, just if there's daily practices that you do to help you stay aligned with your true self, if whether it's journaling or meditation. I know you talk a lot about the people you surround yourself with and having intentional conversations. Is there anything else that you would share that maybe our listeners could benefit from?
Yeah, I think that like I said, I'm trying my best to simplify life a little bit more. And I think that we're in an age right now where relationships are really hard to foster because everything's online and over social media. And I think that as a society, we are really starving for relationships. And I think that is why we have a lot of mental health problems, because there is a huge lack of community in today's society. And so I've really made a point to get to know people more, no matter like who you are. I really have tried my best to just hang out with people like, hey, let's go on a walk, let's go to the river, like let's talk, let's put our phones down and let's have good conversations. And that has really healed me and kept me able to, stay true to who I am. And I've made a lot more friends and have had a lot deeper of relationships and conversations. And that's the stuff I think worth investing in. And people
Hmm.
will always be important to me. And so, like I said, that's something that I really enjoy. But yeah, there's other things that make me happy that I do on a daily basis. I mean, like, I love coffee, so even just having like a cup of coffee and just enjoying that moment, I look forward to that. I look forward to going outside and spending time in the sun by myself. And I do that often too, like just trying to get myself outside. So definitely those things. I read a lot now. I like educating myself on all of the stuff that we talked about today. I'm very passionate about that stuff. And I also do a lot of self talk, and I do a lot of, telling myself that I am good enough and that, I am strong and capable. And I wish that someone told me earlier how much like our thoughts do affect us, and how it is important to be aware of those thoughts and the things circulating your mind, because they do dictate who you are in a sense, and they do dictate our behaviors and our actions, which kind of in a way become who we are as people. And so since I've been aware of that and I've been able to have some influence over the way I think, it's definitely made me a happier person. But yeah, just being honest with what makes you happy, and making sure that what does make you happy is healthy for you, I think is another big lesson. But
Hmm.
yeah, never be too high and never be too low is kind of like where I'm at. Like, I'm just trying to stay very level, very level headed, because I think that, you know, money, things that don't matter in life, it's so easy to latch on to them, and then it just becomes not enough, and you want the next thing and you want the next thing and you want the next thing. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that wanting to get better and better and better is important for success, but also being able to sit back and being like, you know what, I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of where I am in the moment, and I'm going to enjoy the moment and not always looking into the future. I think just being present in the moment and doing things that make you happy.
Amazing. Do you have a last one?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you read. Is it nonfiction you read, or both?
Yeah, I just read a lot of health books, like a lot
Okay.
on dieting, a lot on body image stuff, a lot on I've read some books on like trauma,
Okay.
and kind of dealing with that and how it shapes the view, like how we view the world, and tips for like healing yourself. And
Hmm.
that's been super beneficial, because but once you know this stuff, is kind of crazy because you know why other people act the way that they do, which is like
Sure.
in a sense, but also like, oh, I know why you said that, or I know why you did that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So because I've looked so, like, I've done a lot of research on psychology, like people will treat me a certain way, and honestly, I think it's helped me. And I realized that, like, okay, they're treating me poorly because they're hurt themselves, and that has brought me peace, because I feel like before people would hurt me and I wouldn't understand. I would think that it's like something's wrong with me, like they must be attacking me because there's something wrong with me. But now I
Mm.
realize that when someone attacks you and someone's mean to you, like, feel bad for them. Honestly, just like have some compassion, have a heart for them, because they're going through something that they can't even recognize themselves, and
Sure.
they're pushing that hurt onto you. And that was very healing for me to know. And it's true. Like, I've I haven't been a great person, but all the time, but I've realized that every time that I was mean to someone, it came from like a place of insecurity myself, and it came from a place of hurt myself. And
Yeah.
nobody that's healed and that goes out and loves everyone is mean. Like, it's just Why would I ever be mean to somebody else who hasn't hurt me or hasn't, done something malicious? Like, you just wouldn't. You don't go out and hurt, nice people if you're not hurt yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
total sense.
But yeah,
Sorry.
that's just helped me, just knowing that, because I didn't even know that. So I went through,
Yeah,
life thinking like everything was an attack on me, and now I have a lot of sympathy, for others. I don't condone their behavior, and this is not me saying like it's okay for people to treat you crappy, because it's not, but just know that those people are going through their own crap.
yeah. Dang, this is you provided us a heck of a lot of value for the show and our listeners. And I mean, I know Sammy and I always laugh like this ends up being like just for him and I. Like I get out these conversations, and I just like got 40 pages of notes here. I'm like, holy cow! So and no different today. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's crazy. I think that we learn something from everybody. I truly believe that, and we can take something from everyone. And, that's an important part of life. And these conversations are important because, we don't get this opportunity to do this much, to talk to other people
Right.
and hear about their lives. So I appreciate you guys wanting to listen to my story.
For sure. Yes. Thank you. Do you want to talk about your podcast at all, or when we can put it in our show notes? Do you want to give a little spiel on it here, or totally up to you?
Yeah, sure. So I started a podcast not too long ago. It's Life of a Female Wrestler, and it's on Spotify. I was like reluctant to start one because I just, didn't really know if I should or how people react, going back to, me caring about what other people think. But then I was like, you know what? If I can help one person, and I feel like this is why I'm so open about the stuff I'm open about, if I can just help one person in this life, then I've done my job. And I just figured, if I start this podcast and I talk about my struggles, then, one little girl or one little boy is going to listen in, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've gone through the same thing. Like, this is so good to hear, because, I don't have to go through this alone. And, for all of the people that I know I'm gonna get hate, I know I'm gonna get judgment, I know that people are gonna be like, oh, Skylar's talking about not cutting weight, like she's bad for our sport, blah blah blah, whatever. Like, I know I'm gonna
Yeah.
get that perspective too. That's okay. It's okay. I'm at peace with it, because I know that what I'm doing is going to help somebody. And so I started it, and it's been going well. I think I have like 4 episodes out right now. The first one's just about my, how I got into wrestling in general. The second two are kind of life topics, and then the last one I talked about like dealing with physical injury and mental injury too, which is just as important. But I've had a lot of, young girls reach out to me and say, I've been going through the same things. Thanks for talking about it. And, there aren't any female wrestler podcasts out. So I think I'm the first one. But I also want, boys and everyone to listen to it. So
Hmm.
that Life as a Female Wrestler doesn't just target, female wrestlers. Because, like I said earlier, I know that guys go through the same thing. And I think sometimes it's even harder for them, because as a society, we don't encourage them to talk about their feelings and their emotions. And I think that is something that men struggle with a lot. Like,
Hmm.
that's shown. Like, we see men committing suicide way, more prevalent than women. So we see the mental health effects of, how
Yeah.
we treat men in our society. And so I encourage everyone to listen to it. I think that everyone can learn something from it. And yeah, if you guys have any ideas that you want to hear topics about, like, feel free to message me. I always enjoy hearing people's opinions and what they want to hear, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help other people. So yeah, and then my social media, it's Sky Grote on everything. Instagram, Twitter. I have a Facebook page, Skylar Grote Wrestling. Um, don't friend me on my real Facebook. Don't follow my wrestling Facebook for sure. But yeah, that's how you guys can learn more about me and follow my journey. And my DMs are always open for people that have questions or want to know something more or need help. Like I try to respond to all of my direct messages. And so if you have any questions, feel free to message me.
Dang. Well, keep being you. This is awesome. This was tremendous, and I really appreciate it. I know Sammy does as well, and this is remarkable stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This was great. And hopefully I can get one of you or both of you on my podcast one day.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Heck yeah.
Definitely.
I want
Let
to
us
hear
know.
your story too. I feel like I talked about mine so much, but I both have probably great stories as well that deserve to be heard as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.